If there is one thing Nintendo can depend on with Pokémon, it's sales. Pokémon game sales, even after all this time, have been great, even with more recent releases being borderline broken and unimpressive in many ways. Ultimately, if it is a fun Pokémon game, it will definitely sell. However, in recent years, at least for me, I feel Pokémon games are not as good as they could or should be. There is so much untapped potential with the series, and with Switch 2 releasing in the near future, there has never been a better time for Pokémon games to expand, diversify, and become vastly better. Before moving forward, it's also extremely important to let you know I will be saying Pokémon Legends Arceus, not Arceus. It's just not going to happen. Anyway, with Switch 2 rumored to have the specs similar to a PS4 Pro, that new handheld will have plenty of graphical power needed to create any sort of Pokémon game that Gamefreak wants, especially since Pokémon games do not ever need to be photorealistic. So with this in mind, what are the issues with Pokémon and what needs to change to take advantage of Switch 2? The largest issue Pokémon games are experiencing is stagnation. As far as mainline entries go, the story has largely never been changed. Some games dabble with changing aspects of the story, but really the story will always largely be the same. Outside of Pokémon Legends Arceus, you are a young Pokémon trainer who receives a starter Pokémon and helps save the world from an evil organization, and then becomes a champion. The gameplay reflects the stagnation as you catch Pokémon, battle trainers, and level up the Pokémon. Now there is a reason nothing is changing. These games sell very well and can be developed quite quickly since few features of each game is changed, or sometimes features are even removed. From a business perspective, there is no reason to change future Pokémon games, and as long as fans are okay with this and keep buying every game, then Game Freak will never need a reason to change. But moving on, I want to talk about the other large issue, which is the development time for these games. Legend of Zelda, Super Smash Bros., and many other Nintendo franchises take their sweet time when developing their game or DLC for their game. Mario Kart 8 came out over a decade ago, but with Pokémon, things are different. Now, whether it is Nintendo or Game Freak that sets the schedule, it does not matter. What matters is that these games are being developed way too fast. This ultimately leads to a couple large issues. First is the quality issue. Scarlet and Violet released and had bugs, bad frame rates, and quality control issues everywhere. Before that, Game Freak outsourced the Diamond and Pearl remakes and released the laziest remake I have ever seen, and even that still had extremely alarming quality problems. Second, the development time causes innovation issues. A new Pokémon game is pretty much going to be largely the same as the previous one in most ways. Even more recently, there is Pokémon Legends Arceus. Compared to the previous many years, this game is vastly different. So what is the next Pokémon game? Well, it's a sequel to that one, called Pokémon Legends ZA, so will it really be that different? That the game apparently takes place in one city is intriguing and different, it just remains to be seen if it actually will be. Based on the past, probably not. To be clear, the sequel does not necessarily need to be that different or be innovative, but my overall point here is that Game Freak needs to change up its strategy. Pokémon Legends ZA can just be another similar game to Legends Arceus, but that means they should pursue changes with their other games. Why not put out another unique AAA Pokémon game with a weird concept, like a successor to Pokémon Colosseum, or God forbid a new entry in the Mystery Dungeon franchise, or maybe even a new entry in the Mystery Dungeon franchise. This is my point. With Switch 2 coming out, Game Freak has never had a better opportunity to expand and diversify its offerings with Pokémon. For example, work on a traditional Pokémon game like Scarlet and Violet, but also release a game that changes up the combat system like Legends Arceus, and then make another game that really changes the entire story, etc. And I know that they do that with mobile and smaller games like Detective Pikachu, but I am talking large, fully fledged AAA titles. Moreover, Switch 2 releasing means it is the perfect time to release the ultimate Pokémon game. I would personally love if Game Freak made a game that includes all the Pokémon regions from previous games. Going through Johto and then going back to Kanto afterward in Heart Gold and Soul Silver was awesome. With Switch 2, making a game like this has never been more possible than it is right now. And if there is a unique story to a game like that, it could easily be one of the best Pokémon games created in a long time. With all this being said, how such games are created is ultimately up to Game Freak. They could consider outsourcing to another studio again, or alternatively make another internal team to work on the more unique AAA games as well. But no matter what, it is most important to focus on quality and innovation moving forward. There really does not need to be a huge Pokémon game every year or 2 years. Focus on making incredible games and releasing them when they're ready. In other words, don't ever again have another studio try to make a Pokémon game in 8 months. It's just never worth it. In conclusion, Pokemon should change, and I believe it really needs to change. Whether anything actually changes will ultimately be up to Game Freak. Zelda is such a storied franchise, yet Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are great examples of games that broke the mold of that franchise and were incredibly successful. I don't think anyone wants Game Freak to abandon what Pokemon is and what makes the games good, but like Zelda, that does not mean they can't innovate and make something new and exciting. Give the variety many fans want, but most importantly, give the quality all fans want. It's what fans deserve, and what Pokemon deserves. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video.